Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
I one-eyed Eamon.
Tristan Jones.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to discuss Season 1, Episode 8 of House of the Dragon. The episode's titled The Lord of the Tides. This episode is set about 6 years after Episode 7 and the events of Driftmark. And we've got some recastings. All the kids that we know, all their names backwards and forwards from the previous episodes. Now they've been aged up to like 17 to 21 or so. So that's just a little bit of like setting the tone. But before we jump into every plot and King Viserys especially, what are y'all's like overall thoughts of the episode? I'll start with Brittany. What'd you think about the episode?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant episode. And I can understand where people who have been watching the show may say they prefer last week's episode over this one. However, in terms of the storyline, because now we're really in the time frame for the Dance of the Dragons, this is really setting up for the main stage of what I'm sure is going to encompass all of season 2 and everything that will entail with Dance of the Dragons. It was just so well done. Things, of course, were changed from the book. As always, the show has taken some creative liberties, but they make it work, in my opinion. I may not necessarily like it in a way, but they make it work. They piece it together. That way there's flow. There's that kind of continuity going. And these kids that are now young adults, oh my God, fucking Aemond. I can't wait to get more in depth about this. But overall, brilliant episode. Frank, what did you think of this episode?
I just think that this show, we need to go ahead and just move up the Golden Globes and move up the Emmys and move up all whatever award show that this is going to be considered for, and just give up the awards now. Like best leading actor, Paddy Considine; best supporting actress, Olivia Cooke; and the girl plays Rhaenyra; best supporting actress, all the fucking kids. Like it's just I'm just impressed with all the acting, and I'm impressed with where the story is going. Like we know, like Brittany, Tristan, and myself pretty much know how the story ends. But every Sunday, I'm captivated by the dialogue. I'm captivated by the acting. I'm captivated by the synergy between the castmates. Like this story is such a well-known story amongst Game of Thrones nerds, but to still keep us in suspense every single Sunday. And for me to miss an hour of Sunday Night Football every single Sunday to watch this shows me how much I'm so locked in on this show.
In fairness, most Sunday nights you're not missing a whole lot with the football. I mean, NFL football this year has been pretty bad across the board. I mean, the games are not super fun to watch, but so that's for another topic for another show. Tristan, what'd you think about the episode?
I don't say this lightly. My wife started a Game of Thrones rewatch kind of without me, and I kind of just jumped in with her on it. Last night's episode, I think, will go down as a top 15 to 20 episode in the Thrones universe, just period, like just overall. And the reason is the thing that makes House of the Dragon so valuable is that we get a fresh set of eyes, we get a fresh set of like crew working on this show, and they're better writers than what we got really the last 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. Like starting from season 5, like the show was still at a high level, and it still was the best thing on TV. But the writing, it became less of a story and more of a TV show. You know what I'm saying? And so the writing suffered a little bit to satisfy a lot of those TV show desires for the showrunners and for the fans, right? Like there was just so many. There was a flood of casual thronies coming in, and they had to satisfy that audience plus your loyal book reading audience and just your loyal, from season 1 of Game of Thrones audience. The writing on this show is much better than what we got from the last 4 seasons. And last night encapsulated that so much, like the dialogue, the subtleness, the way that they use symbolism, you know, like the way like you can still see like this show still incorporates this is a fantasy show. And I think what Game of Thrones did at the end was they got away from the fantasy elements to satisfy like the political elements and the battle elements and stuff. But this is a fantasy show. And this House of Dragon never shies away from it. Like it's the point of it. So but last night, just the writing, I took notes on it. I wanted to make sure that I took notes because there was so much in between the lines of each scene, like just the subtle looks and the stuff like that. And it also helps that I've been like listening to the podcast right after the show, and they usually have like a producer. Miguel Sapochnik was on. Miss Patel, I forgot her first name, who directed last night's episode, was on. And you just hear like the way they stage these subtle elements of the show, and it's beautiful writing. And I mean, we're all in communications. I'm, journalism major, whatever. I'm an English teacher. I read for a living, to see, excuse me, to see just the amazing literary elements being placed in the show and it still being as entertaining as it is, really moves me deeply, as my girl Allison would say. So yeah, top 15 to 20 Thrones episode of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into these shows, and I agree with you. When you listen to those podcasts, those official podcasts, or watch those behind the scenes things, and you see what goes into each episode and the thought and the storylines that are paid off and things that are mentioned in episode 2 that we finally figure out, oh, that's what that was pointing to in episode 7 or 8. It's really impressive. I mean, I think this show's awesome, but I still think The Boys season 3 is the better show this year to me. We'll see how the last 2 episodes of House of the Dragon end, but I still think The Boys is better. But that's another topic for another day. But
I'm now very concerned about your well-being.
Really, y'all, we all watched The Boys. Y'all didn't think The Boys was fun. I mean,
no, The Boys it's in its own class. Like it's apples and oranges, in my opinion.
Yeah, but definitely. I mean,
but maybe
but it won't be apples and oranges when they're competing for these awards. It'll be oranges versus oranges. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, fine. Versus apples. However, I can't even begin to try to compare The Boys just because with this, and maybe the difference being is that we Frank, Tristan, myself have read the book. We know what's going to happen. We know what's expected.
Right.
And I think that's probably why I can't speak for these two gentlemen, but for myself, that's why I'm just so invested in it, because I want to see certain aspects play out. I keep talking about a son for a son, and it sounds totally barbaric, but when you get to that point and understand the significance of that event in the story, I mean, you understand why these people are the way they are. But anyway, yeah. I love The Boys. Don't get me wrong. I love The Boys, but this is in its own class.
I'll say 2 things about this. One, I love The Boys. Love it, ever since Frank forced me to watch the first episode. I'm not turning it off for Sunday Night Football. Ever.
Oh, wow.
I'm just not doing that. I'm not turning it off. I'm not turning off a preseason NBA game for it.
For the Bengals and Ravens? The Bengals and Ravens were last night.
Absolutely. Okay. I had it on the iPad. I had to turn it off because House of the Dragon. The second thing I'll say is that it is apples to oranges because The Boys is an amazing show about a particular time, which is like currently.
Yeah.
House of the Dragon is set in a universe. It is it's a world, right? So the reason we love House of the Dragon is the same reason we love Game of Thrones, and it's interconnected. Like we're watching a show about a family that we really barely see in Game of Thrones, right? But we know the history and we know how these things intersect with each other, and that's why it's apples to oranges. And I couldn't even compare them. And I'm also biased as hell, and I would give about 2 touchdowns on the Boys, House of the Dragon over The Boys. And I love The Boys to death. I say that, but it doesn't move. It doesn't get my blood flowing like Game of Thrones / House of Dragon.
Yeah.
I'm
It just doesn't.
concerned. I'm concerned about Trisha here saying that The Boys isn't that intriguing. Oh my god! Like I love The Boys, but again, apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I think the way
Yeah.
they do compare is the fact that both shows are based on very popular genres. Now, Game of Thrones is a genre into it's fantasy, but it's its own thing because how popular Game of Thrones. No show was ever as popular as Game of Thrones, right? So House of the Dragon has that to kind of ride on. Much like how The Boys, superhero movies are still the most profitable movies at the box office. Like if superhero movies weren't at the theaters, there wouldn't be movie theaters right now, flat out.
Agreed.
And I think that also the way they compare is, and I've said this several times, both of these shows, The Boys and House of the Dragon, every scene, like everything matters. There's no wasted scenes. They're action packed. I mean, they're not even always action. They're just packed with story and things that are happening, and you can't take a break on those shows. There's plenty of shows I watch where I can watch something on my iPad or on my phone while I can listen to a podcast while I'm watching something and not really miss anything. These shows, you got to be locked in if you really, and the thing is you want to be locked in because they're so good. So anyway,
and both shows do a great job of espousing these big societal issues and stuff. No two shows I think do that better.
Yeah, through the lens of these like superhero or fantasy kind of world. So anyway, that's my fault for leading us down this path. But I'm gonna get us back on track here, and I want to talk about Paddy Considine and his MVP performance in his final performance as King Viserys Targaryen in last night's episode. Honestly, we see him take his final breath. We see him like make his final plea to his family to, end the infighting. And wow, what a performance by him. Brittany, what'd you think about Viserys in last night's episode?
Well, first of all, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who's in our live chat right now. Drew, our brother in the north, also Own Kind of Beauty, LDJ, and then Trisha, aka the Texas Potterhead. Trisha and I last night were talking about this episode, and she posted something on her Insta stories, which I thought was hilarious. I have to share this comment. She said, "I didn't know we were getting a cameo from the Lord of the Rings Ghost King." I'm with you on this. Okay, that was so on point. We've talked about how Viserys is looking like Gollum. I've also said he looks like the Crypt Keeper from Tales of the Crypt. But yeah, he was looking like the Ghost King from Lord of the Rings. My goodness. But Paddy Considine, oh my God. The casting, and Frank will attest to this too, the casting for Game of Thrones across the board has always been phenomenal. And I think casting Paddy Considine as King Viserys is so well done. It's just stupid. Like I cannot see someone else be King Viserys. And the battle that he has to fight within himself, and then also that of his family, you feel that emotion, you feel that hurt, you feel everything through that screen. And I think it takes a very well-equipped actor to be able to make you have those feelings, because otherwise you wouldn't care. No different than everyone hated Joffrey, the actor who played Joffrey, after his performance. You hate the character, you hate the actor at the same time, right? But with Viserys or with Paddy Considine, I love him. I absolutely am now like obsessed. But this final episode for him, the plea to just have one good memory before he goes, and he thinks everything's been smoothed over, the family's all together, and he can go die in peace. Like I felt that. And then for him, and I don't think we're going to talk about it just yet, his last exchange with Allison, but for him, as he takes his last breath and says, "No more, no more, no more," and then he says, "My love," he was thinking of Emma. And I'm hoping that Emma was there to greet him at the pearly gates, Valhalla, wherever it is that they go in the afterlife, for him to be reunited with his one true love, his wife. I'm going to start getting a little emotional just talking about it, but like, beautiful performance, wonderful performance. I am so sad we're not going to see the likes of him in any more episodes. And now his watch has ended.
There apparently is a new Viserys though, but we'll get to that later. Frank, what do you think about King Viserys? And everything that happened. How he entered the throne room wearing the half gold mask, the crown, being the king one last time.
It was very emotional. I mean, I've only known Paddy Considine for 8 weeks, and I've been so invested. And we've said so many things about his character Viserys. He's a weak king, and he is very partial to Rhaenyra and her kids, quote unquote ambassadors. But I think the finality of it really got to me, because like it was not only Viserys, it was, this is gonna be the last time I'm gonna be able to enjoy this actor for a 57-minute stretch every Sunday. And not only he's my favorite actor on the show, he's my second favorite actor in the Game of Thrones universe behind Oberyn Martell. And to see the finality of the emotion of, this is the end of the road. I have nothing left to give. Being king has literally killed me. It's literally killing me. Heavy the head wears the crown. And to see that and to see what he looks like now, it was so shattering to see on screen. I'm just happy I was by myself, because there was a thug tear did shed when I saw him took off that mask, and see half his face is pretty much gone. But the Fox News table scene at dinner with all the family members and the fake togetherness and all of that, I actually was happy to see that, because for 20-something years of his reign, all he's been going through is his family infighting, family drama, and a lot of it to his own making. I will say that, but every decision that Viserys made, he made in his mind that was the best for the realm. We can agree with it or not, but in his heart of hearts, he felt like he was doing the best that he can. And I mean, and as a viewer watching him on screen, I'm beyond satisfied for what I saw from him. I'm just sad to see him go. I mean, I know we're moving to a new era of this show, a new era of battles that are here to come, but the lights of him will forever be missed. That Paddy is a great actor, man. I have two Paddys now that I love: Paddy Mahomes and Paddy Considine, bro. Those are the two Paddys on my Paddy Mount Rushmore, bro.
The two Paddys. Okay, what about Peppermint Patty? Like, no love for Peppermint Patty? Come on, man.
I don't like the hot airy aftertaste of a peppermint. Fuck Paddy Peppermint, dog.
Gotcha.
I don't want that shit. No.
Oh, I thought you were
Double-
talking about the character from Doug.
I mean, it's, either way.
Oh, that's Patty
Uh,
Mayonnaise. Never mind.
That double Paddy from Five Guys.
Oh yeah, that's top 3 for sure.
So Tristan, what are your thoughts on Paddy Considine and the character King Viserys?
So the director, last name Patel, she talked a lot about seeing Paddy on set, and how at the beginning he was like all focused on diving into being King Viserys. Like he literally became Viserys on set, and like it wasn't towards the end, like shooting his final scenes, that he was able to kind of switch in between. So that shows me like how locked in he was into that character, that he couldn't even allow Paddy Considine to come out. So the performance was amazing. He'll go down as one of the best as far as acting, like kings that we've seen, I think, in television, but definitely on the show and throughout the Thrones universe. Like he literally, what I appreciate most from Paddy Considine was, through his just fucking generational talent, he was able to illustrate something that's really hard for a lot of people to illustrate on screen, which is the burdens of ruling, right? And how hard it is, and how much it eats at like every single decision that he made, like agonized him. There was no easy decisions. And you could tell through his facial expressions, the gestures and stuff like that, the tone of his voice, that he was battling between who he had to be and who he truly was. He was too good for that world, right? Viserys was too good for that world. And Paddy Considine deserves all the credit. I had no idea who he was. Most of these actors, I don't know British actors like that, but he I'm assuming he's really good. One, because they casted him, and two, because they have the budget like the Yankees.
Right.
But he lived up. He was King Viserys, and regardless of what we think about King Viserys, we're gonna remember his portrayal.
Mhm.
We're gonna be happy we saw him portrayed on screen. So bravo, that was a 5-star performance.
Yeah, he definitely knocked it out of the park. And he was on a show, on an HBO show a couple years ago called The Outsider. It was a Stephen King show. Jason Bateman was the star of it, and that's the first time I ever saw him. And he kind of had like he wasn't a main character, but he kind of stood out. He was pretty good in that. So, but I mean, his stock is definitely up after this, and I'm sure
Was
we're
he
gonna
the
see.
Was he the sheriff in Outsider?
No, he was the owner of like the strip club.
That was Paddy.
Yeah, that's
I did
him.
watch Outsider.
Yeah. I remember you and George both watched it. And
Yeah.
y'all liked it.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. It's one of those things where when you get on those HBO shows, it's like a kind of a gang. Like you're with those HBO. I mean, I think because the quality of HBO is so much higher than every other streamer or channel or whatever. And the fact that he was on that show, and that show was not a great show. There was great actors, but it kind of like, it was like 10 episodes, should have been like 4 because it was pretty boring toward the end. But he did a great job in his role, and you could tell like this guy's good. And so he was like one of the few people I actually knew when this cast was released, because I was like, oh, I just watched The Outsider, and he has a very unique name. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from Paddy Considine, not in House of the Dragon, but in other stuff. So again, he was awesome, and just like Tristan, you kind of nailed it. Like being the king, obviously, was something he never wanted to never wanted to be the king, but being the king is very, I mean, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and you could tell he wore it all 8 episodes, and through all the time changes and time jumps and the way his character changed and how he looked, and I mean, it's really incredible. And the fact that, like, I heard this on a podcast, in the book, King Viserys was only 52 years old when he died, and in this show, I mean,
He was about 152.
Yeah, exactly, because I think, like, in the books, like, Daemon is, like, 4 years younger than Viserys, and it's like, you're telling me, like, Daemon is 48 years old right now in relation to his brother? It's like, wow, that's crazy.
I mean, obviously, they had to age up everyone for the show to make it more plausible and less disturbing. Because again, we've talked about this. Rhaenyra was like 8 when her father ascended, and Allison was like, what, 10 years older than her, guys? I think something along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, and even with the time jumps here, I think it's been still pretty accurate even for the kids, with between Allison and Rhaenyra having their children. We're now at that appropriate age where, again, we're really in the timeline for Dance of the Dragons. But yeah, Viserys aging the way that he did, and I do appreciate the explanation of his ailments, which was that of leprosy, which was not openly stated in the show, but Paddy did say that in an interview, thus explaining loss of limbs, the sores, obviously the loss of the eye,
Right.
and part of his face and things like that. Like that was just heartbreaking. Like you think of the man being the kind person that he was, not a strong person in general, but it's like you knew the rain was weighing on him, but then physically everything else was weighing on him as well, and just slowly killing him. It visually done so extremely well.
Yeah, I think that his final episode was a good, like, he kind of got to do everything. He had the heroic moment where he comes in and, gets to kind of save Rhaenyra at the throne room. And then you get, all the way to his final message, which, his final scene where he thinks he's talking to Rhaenyra, but he's talking to Allison. He's talking about the prince that was promised in the prophecy. And it's kind of fitting that his final scene is, his message is not clear, and that's where I want to talk next, because I think you'll obviously have a better understanding of the prophecy, this the Song of Ice and Fire. Brittany, what did you think about? Right, exactly. I mean, we know about it from Game of Thrones, but during this time period, the prophecy, I mean, it appears to be like they're going to go to war over a misunderstanding. Is that
so? So let me just say this right off the bat too, and Tristan and Frank, please correct me, because even though I've recently read the book, there's still some things that are very blurry just because it's so dense. The prophecy was solely done for this show in the sense of reintroducing it, right? With Viserys telling Rhaenyra about Aegon's dream and how it was kind of written into that Valyrian dagger, the cat's paw, and how it was to be a Targaryen that would bring the end of the long night, right? So that was not something that was really focused on in the book, because the book is completely about just the Targaryen lineage from Aegon's conquest onward. So to put that piece of history, because it was teased in Game of Thrones, to put it back into this show, and then to give it a plausible reason to quote unquote go to war over Viserys's last words, Allison's interpretation of what Viserys was saying, because he believed he was talking to Rhaenyra, because he obviously had that mixed up before with Rhaenyra. He thought he was talking to Allison before when she asked about, do you think I can do this? Do you think I should be the heir? Because since you named me heir, everything's been pretty much fucked up. But the prophecy, I think, was a good excuse, I guess you could say, to really put this Dance of Dragons event into motion, just because it is misinterpreted. Viserys, even though he was dying, he more or less hopefully knew what he was saying. He just wasn't aware of whom he was saying it to. So, Tristan, what are your thoughts on that?
My small picture thoughts are I'm kind of bagging up what you just said. Most battles and most conflicts within these shows, both shows, are started on, lack of concrete information, right? Robert's Rebellion was not. It was started on a lie. It was started on one man's bruised ego. So it doesn't surprise me, because I think that's a trope that George is intentionally presenting, is that a lot of these conflicts aren't based on or are based on the flimsiest reasons, and they can be avoided through communication. Large picture thoughts are I wrote this in my notes. I'm like, every time somebody believes in or even hears a prophecy and like takes it seriously, even if it's a real prophecy, they screw themselves over in the end, because hearing a prophecy or believing in a prophecy means you have to. I guess it's human nature to feel like you have to fulfill it, and that's not how prophecies work. Like prophecies are set in stone, and like a set of random acts just kind of lead to that prophecy fulfilling itself. But it's another common trope that George R. R. Martin wants to present, is that like these prophecies, people do so much to fulfill the prophecy that they end up not fulfilling the prophecy and making things worse. And Allison is going to make things worse. It is interesting to me that
I'm sorry, I need you to complete that sentence again. Who's going to make it worse? Who?
Allison is going to make it worse. These are all horrible people that we're talking about.
I'm just saying, because you're so team Allison. I just needed to hear it come out of your mouth. Okay, thank you.
I mean that is maturity, because 5 weeks ago he was not saying these are all horrible people. He was saying all these are horrible people, but Allison. Now,
I never said that. I said these are all horrible people. I said at the time Allison wasn't horrible. She hadn't had to do anything horrible. Now she has. and that's just kind of how this thing works. I forgot what I was saying, but the other prophecy, it's interesting to me that the show is kind of really what Brittany said, is taking this liberty to make that the straw that breaks the camel's back. Her feeling like, I have to make this happen, even though this is something that she was being manipulated on by her father, and to the point where she believed it, try to make the kids believe it. One toast apparently changed all that, and then this fake prophecy. Really, I don't think Allison is doing this because she believes the prophecy, because she said it herself, she didn't understand what he was saying.
Right.
What I think she took from it was like the showrunner said after the show, was like these buzzwords like Aegon, Prince,
Right.
Promise. You're like, so he's like, hey, this is
uniting the realm. Yeah.
Right. So I think to her, it's not a prophecy so much as she's just like, this is his dying wish. Let me feel it. And Allison is all about duty and whatever. Yeah.
But the thing is with that is in the same episode where at the end her dying husband says, right, it says Aegon and Prince and whatever. The same episode, early in the episode, she's like, "Hey, you're no son of mine." After he rapes the serving girl, I mean, she knows he's like awful. So
yeah, honor and decency does not prevail.
No, but my thing is like, do you think that like, is this just the opening for her to get her kid back in the spot, or is she thinking that, or is she really thinking that my husband's dying wish is to put our jackass son on the throne, like for real? Because I like, honestly, the way she plays it, she doesn't know, right? And right now, that this probably leads into the next episode, but it seems like, she's going to take the ball and run with it and make that happen. I don't know that she necessarily believes that Aegon's the right person for the job.
Well, as the resident Allison PR person,
Hightower Communications. Yeah, go ahead.
Old Town Publishing over here.
Right.
I don't think Viserys knows how shitty a person Aegon is.
Oh,
right.
Totally agree.
I don't think Viserys even sees him. I wrote this down. Yeah. If you look at the throne room scene, if you look at the supper scene, Aegon's mask is covering the green side. He doesn't even see them. Right. Right? All his actions, all his words, all these things, for the most part, is aimed at the black side. So he only sees. So he's so laser focused, metaphorically and literally, on that side of the family that he doesn't see the decay happening on the other side. Right? His eye is gone. Like that eye is out of there.
But ironically enough, the right side, which is the Hightower side that sitting next to him, is the decay, right?
Right.
But it's all across his face. Granted, he lost his hand on the other side, but I'm glad you brought that up. The metaphorical.
He's lost a lot.
He's lost.
And I would also argue that the black side is a slower decay, but a decay nonetheless. He's had at this point he's had more issues with the black side, but the black side has his brother, whom he loves and always will accept back. It also has his daughter, the Realm's Delight, who comes from his only love, right? So he is laser focused on them. He's always going to be more biased towards them. And if we're being honest, his bias towards the black side is what causes his conflict. But that's we'll get to that point when we get to that point. But with Aegon, I think Allison hopes, right? And this goes back to the first time we see him like masturbating out of the window. What Allison hopes is that the gravity of the situation will force him to rise to the occasion. Like she needs him to rise to the occasion. She's trying to impart upon him that if you don't rise to this occasion, our family is gone, right? Our family is in danger of being gone. So one, she has his dying wish, which is aimed towards what she was leaning to in the first place, which is Aegon should be king, even though I don't think she wants him to be king. I don't think she wants anybody in her family to be king. I don't think Allison primarily wants to rule or wants anybody else to rule. I think she sees the harm it does when you're in that seat and how much it can literally kill you. She definitely does not believe any of her sons are worthy of ruling, right? But it's duty. Like what's all this? This is where Allison loses me, because I'm not this type of person. But like this clinging on to honor and duty and tradition and stuff like that is what's causing her to make these actions, and it's going to contribute heavily to the coming civil war and overall decay of that house.
Exactly.
Frank, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree with Tristan in regards of all these people are terrible. All these heirs are terrible. there are no good options. I think that's why I feel so sorry for Viserys. Even had Viserys change his mind, the realm was still going to be in a fracture because one side was going to feel like they were more deserving of having that succession than the other side. So this was no way avoidable. The only way this was avoidable had Emma had lived and Baylor Targaryen had lived. That was the only way this was going to be unavoidable. As far as Allison, I feel sorry for her. I do. There was frustrations with me with the High Towers the first part of the season, primarily with the father. But I mean, Allison has she's had no choice in the matter from the start. Go. She was made to console a guy who just lost his wife the day of. She was made to be this person's husband. I mean, person's wife. For the Seven Kingdoms. She was miserable. She still is miserable. And I think the patriarchy behind Allison is that no matter what you do in this time as a woman, your path is already written for you. And I think she's trying to find the good or trying to find the silver lining. And if I could find a way to better my sons and put them in a better position and show them duty and honor what I learned from my own father, maybe we can right this ship. But I think the more she sees her son and Aemon and Aegon, the more she realizes we're fucked. So it's kind of like there is no happy ending in this. And I think, and I'm gonna stop talking because these dogs are driving nuts in the background. But I think I agree with Tristan. There's no way around that. She was screwed from the get-go. So
yeah, it also would help if everyone wasn't named Aegon. Honestly, there should have been some kind of rule where like Aegon the Conqueror, they should have retired that name. I don't want in 20 years, I don't want to see another guy named LeBron. There's only one LeBron. We don't need more. Be creative, find your own names, right? So the fact that Allison, of course, has an Aegon, and now in this episode we find out that Rhaenyra has a son with Daemon named Aegon. And
hold on, Justin.
Go ahead.
Justin. We have to think about why. Why do people keep naming their children Aegon?
Oh, because it's like a kingly name, right?
That's
a powerful name. Exactly.
Right. Yes, like Aegon the Conqueror is the legend among legends. Like he is Michael Jordan mixed with, Bill Russell mixed with Joe Montana mixed with Willie, all these people. You know what I'm saying? Like he is him. But what we just finished talking about is the prophecy, right? And what the show with House of the Dragon is establishing is that this prophecy was something that's passed on from king to heir, king to heir, king to heir, right? So, and there's obviously would be some inconsistencies with, because Maegor, but we can assume like this comes from Aegon, right? And Viserys and Rhaenyra are not that far down from Aegon as far as like the hierarchy. Or the lineage. I mean, so it's people trying to fulfill this prophecy. If I name my child Aegon, he'll be the prince that was promised, right? Both Rhaenyra, Viserys names his Aegon for that reason, right? Because he named the first. He thought the other son was going to be the prince was promised. No, it's this next one. It's Aegon.
Right, because of the dream he had that his male heir was born with Aegon the Conqueror's crown.
Wearing Aegon's crown, right? Rhaenyra and Daemon named their son Aegon for the same reason. So it's people trying to fulfill this prophecy, and it doesn't lead to anything good, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes things more confusing also. But wasn't the first child, wasn't it Balon? The one that died? Yeah, okay.
He was named after Viserys' father.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, lots of Aegons. I'm sure we'll have more.
And I think we need to say this too, because I know Tristan mentioned this earlier. The term prophecy is not something you can create and sidestep and fall into. Prophecy means it's already written. Whatever you do or don't do, your fate is going to be in line with whatever prophecy it is. You trying to name your kids certain names, or you trying to walk through fire and cold, or you trying to pull fire swords out of statues. That's not going to change your prophecy. And I think the term prophecy is lost among the Targaryens, every person, every highborn that thinks that they have a right to whatever kingly or queenly vision that they have, or every sorcerer or sorcerer. Your prophecy is already written. And I think a lot of these characters think that they can change certain things by doing A, B, and C to get to D, and that's just not how it works for a prophecy.
Where's the TVA in all this? Okay, when you deviate from the timeline, there needs to be someone who comes in and resets it. Come on.
Yeah,
That's another show. Season 2 of Loki's coming our way, I think, this year. Or
Check out
2023,
check out our review on Loki here on our YouTube channel. There's my plug-in.
Good plug. So let's talk about one of the key parts of this episode is the fact that Lucerys Velaryon, which is one of Rhaenyra's children with Laenor, actually Harwin Strong. So his succession as being the Lord of Driftmark is being questioned because we open the episode, we find out that Lord Corlys has been he's been not fatally injured, but maybe close to fatally injured. Gravely injured. There we go. And he's on a ship somewhere, making his way home, right?
He has blood fever or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, blood fever. That's what they say it is. So we're not sure if he's going to make it. I think we talked about the last week where y'all said that y'all thought he would make it. So that would be interesting if he returns.
He has to make it. He plays a huge role in events to come.
Right.
Huge.
but in the meantime, they're thinking, hey, this Driftmark place, we've got to have somebody sit on the throne. His brother Vaemond is not a fan of Rhaenyra's children because, as he says in the throne room out loud, they're bastards, and he doesn't want his house line to continue with their non-Valyrian blood. I mean, it's really like kind of the crux of the whole episode. It's how we get everyone to King's Landing, and Rhaenyra and Daemon are basically summoned to King's Landing, and they arrive and they notice that, hey, like King's Landing looks different, and Allison's now a religious freak. She's embracing the gods of the Seven, or the whatever the religion was back then, and it's a different place. And just like they've been summoned, Rhaenys has been summoned. She is Corlys's wife, and it sets up an interesting an interesting mixture of everyone's there for this cause, and everyone has sides. I mean, Vaemond, he's he wants. I mean, in theory, like he probably has a claim to obviously the throne, and what he's saying is not wrong. But he's putting himself in danger, as we see. So Brittany, what did you think about that whole plot theme of having the throne kind of up for grabs?
This is very much history repeating itself, with like what we saw with Viserys naming his only child at the time, heir to the Iron Throne. We're seeing Corlys, who wants to pass on his throne through his son Laenor, because Laenor could not claim it at the time because he was prince consort, if you will, to Rhaenyra. So therefore would pass on to her second son, Lucerys. And we know that Lucerys initially didn't want it. We're over here channeling our Jon Snow. Hey, but the very fact that Corlys had said to Lucerys, hey, I want you to be my successor, but I guess he never formally put it out there saying this is what it is. That's where people feel like, okay, well, because it's not official, it's up for grabs. I understood Vaemond's claim to it because unlike in the show, he's actually a nephew to Corlys Velaryon, and
his brother. His brother.
Was it his brother or his?
Yeah. Vaemond Corlys are brothers
in the show.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So in the show, but it's different in the book. They're a different relation in the book. Doesn't really matter. The point being is that Vaemond did feel he had a claim, and challenging that claim, obviously against Rhaenyra's children, or child results in his demise happens a little differently in the book than it did in the show, which I absolutely loved how it happened in the show. It was sick. It was purely classic Daemon, if you will, because Daemon does go do Rhaenyra's bidding to basically get Vaemon's head. And in the book, the head is fed to her dragon, Syrax. But I actually really enjoyed this creative liberty of Vaemon's death in the throne room, and him just calling it out. It's the pink elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about, because remember, Viserys had said he would have whoever's tongue who spoke against Rhaenyra and Rhaenyra's children. And Vaemon just said, you know what? Fuck it. He goes, I'm going to go out on my terms. And he said what he said. He spoke his truth. It ended up causing him his head. Tongue still intact, by the way. Crazy. But Daemon just did what he needed to do. He's going to defend Rhaenyra. He's going to defend his wife and her children and the succession, because they understood what was at stake. If Daemon took the throne, he was aligning himself with the Greens. Rhaenys was, kind of up in the air because she wanted to honor her husband and what have you. So I think just what we got from this episode was a really great adaptation of just the constant conflict that goes on within these families. And like I said, it's history repeating itself, and no one seems to learn from this. You know what I'm saying? No one.
So I had this scene. I wrote it down as like the undercard to the Dance of the Dragons, like just the question of succession and all that. Like, yes, like we should learn from this this lesser, quote unquote lesser situation. Vaemon. So Frank and I had this conversation months back. I don't even know if you remember. We were talking about Draymond Green being a Hall of Famer, right? And I said, like, hey, if you want to make a statistical argument that Draymond Green is not a Hall of Famer, go ahead. Like, sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, have at it, right? Like, you that would be a very logical and plausible argument. Like, and people are inclined to agree or disagree with it. Guess what? When we talk about Draymond Green and Warriors and people who won 4 championships, that's not the fucking conversation that we're having. We're not having a logical conversation. Viserys and Daemon and all these people are not having a logical conversation when we're talking about these kids, right? Viserys does not want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? So he really came in there with the wrong argument, right? He came in there with a logical, semi-factual argument that he could not prove and that he knew was going to get him in trouble. Stop there. Because I knew that he was going to die, right? I didn't know at what point he was going to die. I didn't know how many bars they were going to let him get off before he died. But I didn't, because this is not in the book. I did not know he would take it all the way to yelling at the highest octave possible. The bastard part, yeah, I knew that was coming. The she's a whore part, my boy. My boy.
Let me just say real fast. Will Johnson's performance in this episode is chef's kiss. Beautiful. So extremely well done. And like, you could feel that man's anger. Like he's had enough. When he told King Viserys, hey, you can run your house however the fuck you want to run it, but you're not going to tell me how I'm going to run mine. And I'm like, bruh, you still not the head of the house, though. Like, your brother is still alive. He's gravely ill, but you don't get to call the shots either. So
I think what's so funny in all of this and his ranting and raving and cursing out, calling her out of her name and all this shit. You talk about blood and you talk about your house, yet you're undercutting your own house and your bloodline by speaking out to the very man that he's your ruler. Like, you have no kids, bro. You're not married. Can you, think what you're doing here? You're literally signing your own death warrant and killing your own house by talking shit back to the king and in the heir in succession. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, it's one thing if you got your affairs in order, like, I'm gonna get me a wife over here and, has a couple kids, make sure that my line is safe, and then go out with a bang. you have no heirs, dog. Like you have nobody in your blood under you. And for you to go out like that was like, bro, that made no sense to me. I was surprised to see that. I mean, I remember the books vaguely. I remember he does speak out, but just the idiocy of like not having your own bloodline affairs in order before making that claim in court was wild to me.
I also think that Vaemon, his little rant was, I think he basically was a mouthpiece for a lot of other people in that room who wanted to say the same thing, right?
Right.
Maybe not that she's a whore part, but definitely these kids are bastards. What the fuck are y'all looking at? Like, what are we looking at? Right? And I understand the frustration because shit, Allison was there. Like, she literally followed and nagged her husband, like, bro, like, these kids are not Laenor's. Like, you can see it. You know this to be true. And she realized very quickly, oh, he's having a different conversation and I'm the one I'm having, right? And she's had to adjust. Everybody's had to adjust. They were trying to, well, Otto at least was trying to get that off because King Viserys was not there. The moment King Viserys walked in, all that was done because, again, this is not the conversation he wants to have. So Vaemon paid for a lot of people's thoughts. Shout out to him. I don't know how the black people on High Tide do it, but we don't speak out about, people's wives and baby mamas on this side, man. That will get you killed in King's Landing, Third War, whatever. Like, this is just what happens. I don't get that part. I don't get it. But RIP.
You mentioned Otto sitting on the throne. He looked pretty comfortable, didn't you think? Like he was pretty relaxed.
A little too goddamn comfortable, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't
no,
that
sir.
kind of disrespectful? Or I mean, to me, it's interesting how.
No, because remember Ned had to do it.
That's true. But like,
Ned
so
had to sit on the throne.
It's cunning. I would say that. Like, so like when the king is on political affairs or he's sick or whatever, the hand sits in with the king's words.
Right.
Where I find it disrespectful is that you're literally milking this man with milk of the poppy and making him a mute and not being able to make any sound decisions and saying that it's tea and just to get him out of the way for you to further your own advances and your own interests. That's why I find it disrespectful. But like as far as like the role of the hand of the king, that's what they typically do if the king is indisposed or he's not available. They sit the throne and speak with the king's mouth.
I just wanted to go ahead, Brittany.
Oh, I was just gonna say the scene, of course, that's unfolding of Otto at the throne, and everyone's about to make their petitions. Rhaenyra is finally allowed to speak, and she's about to begin with, 20 years ago in this very room, basically, people bent the knee to me at King Viserys's, command. Enter King Viserys. Now, I love how he gets a hell of an entrance, just like Allison got at Rhaenyra's pre-wedding reception, whatever you want to call that. I mean, because the winds changed, as Vaemon had said early on in this episode, the winds were changing, and that obviously was the big change in the course of whatever the High Towers wanted to happen, because they were going to align themselves with Vaemon and naming him the Lord of the Tides, right? And once Viserys walks in, the poor cripple that he is, and telling Otto, because I remember, this just happened last night. This is dumb. John's like, Otto, get your ass up from the throne. Like what y'all are talking about, the disrespect in a fashion, but it also is the hand's duty to physically serve as.
But then in the king's courtroom, why does Allison sit in the king's chair? Why doesn't the hand look like she was running the meeting, right?
She also, prior to even that, she was in the small council. She's been a part of the small council since.
But so is the hand. Wouldn't the hand take over that spot and be the one? Because she looked like she was in charge.
Not necessarily. No.
She's the queen. When the king is not there, she's the queen. I mean, she's just the next in line. And I think Otto was fine. I think Otto's mostly fine, being on their side and not having it seem so overtly that he's, manipulating and trying to be cunning behind the scene, So I think that works best for Otto.
I think I just need like a seating chart. Just let me know.
We need
That's
seating charts. We need the family tree. We need Aegon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6
Right.
labeled appropriately.
I want to talk about the walk.
Go ahead.
I read the article by the director last night. That walk from Viserys from the doors to the chair to the Iron Throne was not originally part of the script. They did it once. It was a 20-minute scene. It was a 20-minute scene from the time that he walks from the doors to the throne. And originally, as that scene is being played out, the director said that Paddy is looking at Rhaenyra, and that's when she realized, oh shit, we can make the scene to where it's like the public looks like Viserys is walking to the throne, but he's walking to his daughter, and how that scene was cut. It's a 20 minutes. They cut it down, but they didn't want to cut it too much down because they wanted us to see, what at all costs, even on close to his deathbed, not being able to see his daughter for what might have been 6 years at this point. Like how much his daughter means to him amongst all the bullshit, amongst all the drama with the line succession and the kids infighting. Me seeing my daughter that one last time and showing my daughter that you have my unwavering support. That shit was so emotional to me, man, because like I missed it the first time. I thought he was trying to walk to the throne and dethrone Otto, but this whole time he's trying to get to his daughter. That shit was so dope to me, man. And I love that scene, and that director, I can't remember her name, but that was dope. That was dope. And it almost didn't happen. It was seen by accident. It was all because of Paddy at that point. So
and also part of that scene, the walk up to the throne, where of course Viserys is refusing help. He's wanting to do this on his own. And then you see his crown fall off, and then Daemon comes up behind, picks up the crown, and kind of continues leading him to the throne. That in itself was also completely just on a whim. Matt Smith came up and picked up the crown and continued on and played out the scene. And Viserys sits on the throne. Daemon puts the crown back on his brother, and you feel that whatever tensions they ever had with one another, it just
doesn't
dissipated.
matter.
It didn't matter. Exactly. It just dissipated. They've had their quarrels about, I'm your brother. You should have named me Hand and blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter at this point. Daemon sees his ailing brother, and Viserys was just happy that his brother was there for him. Like, you're right. It was an incredibly emotional scene. Didn't realize it was a 20-minute long take, but damn, that was incredible.
But to have the synergy, and I always talk about this, to have the synergy to like mask a mistake and make it part of history, to pick up that crown, put on Viserys, walk him to the thing, like to have the presence of mind to keep the cameras rolling. You know what I'm saying? To in order to capture that, because that happens on a whim, like you said, like that. If you cut the cameras off when the crown comes off, we don't get that scene. We get something totally different. So again, man, like it takes method actors. It takes a director knowing your cast and just letting shit just fly and just kind of like just reeling it back in when you need to. But that's probably my favorite scene of the series so far. That was just that was Rembrandt. That was beautiful.
Jita Patel, by the way, that's the
okay.
Jita Patel, yeah. She talked about that. Talked about it on the podcast as well. Like I highly suggest listening to that.
Jita went into her bag in this episode. She went into her bag, bro. She killed that shit.
They always do. I mean, really, this show is so meticulously put together, and great scene. And let's transition to another great scene. Is Viserys' Last Supper. So the king, he calls for a family dinner, and he wants to see everybody one final time. And really, the main goal is he wants to put an end to the fighting. He wants to get his house back in order before he dies. He knows he's about to die. I mean, he even says that as they're eating. He says, that he doesn't know how much longer he'll be walking amongst them. He removes his mask, his golden half mask, to reveal his decrepit face, and he really, like, he begs them, like, not as their king, but as as the old man, as the father, as the husband, as the brother, as the grandsire of all these people to, you know, change their ways. Let's all be a family. The House of the Dragon, the crown won't survive if the House of the Dragon falls. And
Ain't that the damn truth?
in this, in this moment, you see like Rhaenyra steps up and she toasts Allison, right? And then Allison is moved by that, so she toasts Rhaenyra. And you see that the characters that we've been with for all 8 episodes, I'm not saying they're going to try to put all this behind them, but it seems like they're trying to, if only for this one night, make it work for Viserys. And they're trying to like, put the past in the past, right?
Some are.
Well,
Ironically
yeah.
enough, not Viserys's children with Alicent.
No, that's what I mean. But the people that we've seen the whole way, Allison and Rhaenyra, they had this friendship before, and you can see them kind of like, this has gone on for a long time. They're both mothers. They both love their kids. But then we get to the kids, and once Viserys exits the room, they bring in the roasted pig, and then the kids reignite the feud, and here we go again. Brittany, what are your thoughts about that scene?
I didn't catch it on the first watch. I caught it on the second.
I did.
Watch.
With the pig. Yeah,
with the
I
pig.
totally,
It took me with the second watch to figure out why Luke was just giggly
smirking at him. Yeah,
because he and Rhaenyra. No, Rhaenyra. He's. I can't remember right now. It doesn't really matter. He's betrothed to one of Daemon's children from Lhaenyra's. Anyway, he's sitting opposite end from Aemon One Eye. And as we can recall, Luke is the one who took Aemon's eye. And the pig is placed just right in front of Aemon. And as you said, it's reigniting this old feud between nephews and uncle. And Luke is just like giggly. And Aemon's like, fuck this shit. Slams his fist on the table to make his final toast, if you will, and starts praising the Velaryons and saying all these wonderful things about them, and then uses the word strong.
Yeah, he said they're strong boys or whatever.
Strong boys. Yeah. and strong this, and Allison's like, what are you doing? We just made peace. What the fuck are you doing? And that, of course, causes Jace to react, Luke to react, Aegon, who's still a shit even in this episode or in this scene, is toying with Jace about, oh, do you know how to do it? Do you know where to stick your thing in? Blah blah blah. I mean, Allison's kids are just shit, with the exception of Helena. Helena is just a special person, but yeah, that the adults may have quote unquote buried the hatchet, but the kids certainly have not. They have their own battles to fight amongst each other, and that is for sure going to play out in the coming episodes.
So one of the key idioms about the Targaryens that people say is like, when a Targaryen is born, gods flip a coin, right? Allison got real unlucky, right? Because 2 of them shits came up lame. Yeah. Both of those, like,
he said 2 of them shits.
These are like 2 shitty boys, right? 2 shitty young men, right? Aegon has been shitty since the beginning. I think it was Helena that cried all the damn time. One of them, like, these are really shitty kids. Like, and it's interesting to see the contrast with the Velaryon boys, who are strong boys. Both of these kids are half Targaryen, right? I think it's saying something that, like, the male line of the Targaryen came out with like the really shitty, horrible kid, like, for the most part, and we have these boys who again are half Targaryen, but they also have this dominant gene. Like, the further you get away from the Targaryen part, the better the kids are, right? Because there's no reason for those boys to be that shitty. Like, Rhaenyra wasn't that shitty, right? So like the Targaryen line is the ultimate like lottery.
That's one way of looking at it. I mean, like
Wow.
even in the book with Damon's girls from Lena, you know, Bela was considered to be very wild, whereas Rhaena was
Mhm.
more, she was more regal, if you will, and so Bela was very much after her father, you know, same demeanor and that kind of thing. So yeah, it really is a toss up when it comes down to these Targaryens or half Targaryens or whatever the case is.
Even that with them, that's still normal. It's normal for
Yeah.
one child to be, you know, more tomboyish, one child to be more regal, more pristine. But like these kids are fucking like unhinged, right? Like Aemond is unhinged. We can tell that ever since he got on that dragon. Like it's been a decline of his mental maturity, I would say. But like, and Aegon is just a 10-year-old. You know what I'm saying? With
Mhm.
power and privilege. He's Joffrey with a sexual appetite
Right.
instead
Yeah.
of killing animals. You know what I mean?
Doesn't seem like he'll be a good king. Just my thoughts. Yeah.
Oh,
Or
so
son, brother,
Yeah.
any
husband.
human being.
Yeah.
Frank, I want to ask you, because again, you've also read the book, the standoff between Daemon and Aemond. What were your thoughts on that?
I love that standoff because it showed the hierarchy of the Targaryen lineage. So when Daemon rises up after Aemon does his dissing of the Velaryon / Strong Boys, Aemon backs down. Like it's not even a question. Like he doesn't say anything. No wisecrack jokes. No like threatening like position to fight. He backs the fuck down. And I think I love that scene because it shows you, because Damon's been pretty mild outside, like, I mean, to the end of this episode, he's been pretty mild over the last like 2 episodes. You haven't really seen anything from him as far as like him acting a fool or, you know, killing anything or just doing anything, right? I think the last wild thing we see is him killing his wife. Was that episode 5? So he's been pretty calm.
He also killed
somebody,
an innocent guard in the previous episode, but
You're right.
That's okay.
You're
peasant.
right.
You know, it's fine. It's fine. He's just.
You're right. It's some low born.
I mean, nobody's perfect. God, y'all are tough, man.
Yeah, it's fine. Some low born. I'm sure that low born guy did some shitty shit in his life.
I will defend Daemon Targaryen until my dying day. Okay, I am not ashamed of saying that. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, but I think that scene, it demonstrated that even though it had been 6 or 7 years, it was a reminder that Daemon is still not that dude to fuck with. And I think Aemon and Aegon, they know the legend of their uncle. They know what lines to cross. They do this shit to their nephews because their nephews are young. The nephews are quote unquote bastards. So like they know who to fuck with. And I think Daemon is the quintessential Targaryen not to fuck with, and they recognize that very quickly. So I love that scene. It was just the order of power demonstrated in that scene.
But do you recall what that's going to foreshadow?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The dragon fight. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, shut up! Damn.
Well, I mean, I'm not.
Spoilers. Come on.
I mean, it is called House of the Dragon. We do know dragons.
And we're talking about Dance of the Dragons. Like this.
I mean, that's not spoiler, bro. We know
spoiler. No, it's not.
Not a spoiler.
I thought it was like an actual dance. Like I was like, is it like Macarena? Are we 2-stepping here? Like what?
No, it's like the dance that Lena and Rhaenyra did at their wedding reception thing.
Well, Jace and Helena, they had like a dance where they're jumping up and like jumping around. I was like, I could do that. I think.
Jump.
Yeah.
The show's not called House of the Strongs, bro. It's called House of the Dragons for a reason.
Crisscross.
Hey,
jump.
That shit is gonna break records. That is gonna break like viewership records. It's gonna be one of those. It's one of.
So let me ask you this. So let me. Okay, go ahead.
Let me push back a little bit. I do think Aemon backs down, but I think Aegon backs down because he's backing down because he definitely does not want those problems.
He ain't shit anyway. He ain't shit
or forever. Aemon absolutely wants those problems.
Yeah,
and I think Aemon he has been preparing, and he will continue to prepare to have those problems later. I think he looked at that as like, I wrote this down. Oh my God, I made notes, man. I wrote it down. When he walked past him, he's saying, I'm not ready today, but I will be ready pretty soon, right? And
Mhm.
you can tell he's getting much better. Like he was besting, Kristen Cole. Last point I want to make, like we can draw a clear line between 2 episodes ago, or I don't even know, whatever, when Kristen and Harwin Strong fought in the training yard, and Kristen was training the boys, was supposed to be training all of the boys, right? If you notice, like he specifically tells Aegon and Aemon, hey, kick them when they're down. Like basically, like it's okay to pick on somebody based on their size in battle, and we see that play out in different ways. For Aegon, it's played out in the worst way possible because he bullies women or bullies girls and stuff like that, or he bullies his younger, nephew. Aemon, like it plays out through his like sheer physical advantage. Like he relishes in picking on and picking down on his nephews. And it's crazy. Like again, this is Kristen Cole's influence on them. Because like, where else would they get that from? Not from Allison. Allison, whatever you think of Allison, she's not a bully. Well, except for young Diana. We can talk about that too. But like that's straight from Kristen Cole.
Yeah, that's one way of possibly reasoning as to why Aemon is the way that Aemon is, but he's also the second born, or the second son, if you will. And there's always that kind of characteristic of being the second means you're lesser of a human being and blah, blah, blah. So you have a lot more to live up to. But then, like you said earlier, with the target, every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. And in this sense, I mean, Allison really got the short end of the stick when it comes down to Aemon. And then there's still another one that we haven't been introduced to yet. So
yeah, I mean, Aemon is basically her Daemon, right? There's a parallel between those. They're kind of the wild
cut from the
cards.
same cloth.
Yeah, so I think that's why we saw them a couple times, kind of stare. It leads. I'm sure there's gonna be some kind of a face off in the future, probably in the next episode or episode 10, I would guess.
In last episode, Otto calls Aemon Rogue. Right? Guess what Daemon's nickname is?
Right, the Rogue Prince.
Rogue Prince.
So we keep seeing these parallels. I mean, shit, look at their names. Like Aemon is just
Damon.
Take the D off and put it on Aemon. Like it's the same. They're setting up to be the same person.
Yeah.
Whose fates are aligned. One could argue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this about Aemon's fighting skills over the last 6 years when he's fighting Kristen Cole in a training yard. Dude is green, but dude got potential, dog. Dude got that sword game, man.
Definitely. So let's talk about, Tristan, you just kind of referenced this. Let's talk about the Allison scene with Diana, the server girl, who Aegon raped or sexually assaulted. We see, and when I first saw this scene, the way Allison is acting and talking, like I'm like, is she gonna have this girl killed like right now? Like it was like I wasn't sure like where this was gonna go. I mean, she is like somewhat compassionate. I mean, she understands, like she knows that this person isn't making this story up, but at the same time, this is like one of the first times we see her in this episode. The look she has, and just the fact that she's like, hey, you've already told 3 people. You've told Talia, me, and this Eric or Arik or whatever his name is.
The twins, Eric
right.
and Eric.
And I mean, did y'all get that sense from her? I mean, she kind of came off like,
yeah.
I wasn't sure if she gonna slit her throat right here. I mean, she ends up giving her this like morning after tea to make sure that any kind of issue might go away. But I don't know. I was surprised to see Allison so kind of hard nosed.
So let me just say this. This is not my original thought. This is from Twitter.
Yep.
Someone wrote, it's crazy how Allison hated Rhaenyra for having consensual premarital sex while she's routinely picking up after her rapist son and doling out Plan B teas. How she called the Targaryen customs queer, yet forced her son and daughter to marry each other. And now she's found God, so everything's okay. Or gods, whatever the case may be. yeah, Allison ain't shit. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, she ain't shit. I don't care if she's a product of her
Here we
environment.
go.
She ain't shit. Okay, but I did get that vibe. 100% kind of got these Cersei vibes because I'm looking at her dress and it's reminding me Cersei post jail time with the High Sparrow, right? She's now wearing these kind of collared dresses. She's got the chain metal, you know, going across her front, and I'm like, oh shit, she's gonna do things, claim it's in the name of the Seven, and it's just bad. It's just bad overall. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see the compassion that came from Alicent on this young girl who clearly did not ask for this. Alicent knows her son. She knows her son. There's no question about it. And when she challenges Aegon about his behavior, who he just dismisses like, oh, it was a bit of fun. She didn't need to go get upset about it. And Alicent's like, how can you keep on doing this? Like to me, to your wife. I don't know if she said to his children, but especially on a day such as today, which was the fact that Rhaenyra and Daemon were back on King's Landing or in King's Landing, and then says, "You're no son of mine." And it's like, bitch, yes, he is. He came out of your greatness, you know, whatever. So like, doing his or picking up after his dirty work, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating, you know, because I will forever go back to her line of saying, I have to believe that honor and decency will prevail. And it's like, well, it's not going to happen with your kids. That's for damn sure. And it's horrible. It's really horrible that, you know, we kind of look at Allison in the sense, or at least I did I thought she was going to take out this child just so, you know, there's no question or rumors going around. But no, she showed compassion, paid the child for her, what do you call it? She just paid her off basically.
Yeah, right.
And gave her the moon tea, and that's that. That's all she wrote. And I bet the maesters who have to brew this moon tea are just tired of having to do this on a probably daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Oh no,
or hourly, just saying.
There's definitely a moon tea shortage in the Seven Kingdoms for sure.
Right.
I think Aegon. I mean, based on, that reaction that Allison had, that wasn't the first time or the second time or third time. This is a trend, and I wish, and this is me being nitpicky again. The show was a 15 out of 10. It was perfect. It was beyond perfect. I just wish I would have seen, because we see how Viserys parents Rhaenyra, his firstborn, his only child, his, you know, that's his baby, right? I just wish I would have got a little bit more of how Viserys parents these other three kids. I want to see this favoritism, because I would assume with him being so ill and being so out of touch over the last 6-7 years, he's just not around. I get that, but I just wish I would have seen at least some sort of early parenting from him to see how he handles those kids, because it looks like, and this is not me making an excuse, Aegon's a monster. The guy's he's a rapist. He's twisted. Aemon too. I mean, Helena's weird. But it looks like this is the benefactor of not being, your dad not being around, and your dad worrying about the realm itself, and Alicent just being overwhelmed as the queen, overwhelmed as pretty much the leader of the Seven Kingdoms right now, along with Otto. I wonder how much of that is affecting Aemon and Aegon and Helena, because we don't really see any action with Viserys and the kids. I mean, outside of Aemon getting his eye cut and they having the scene of like what to do and son for son, all that kind of stuff. But I wish I would have seen a little bit more of Viserys with the kids, because the only frame of reference I have is Viserys and Rhaena. Viserys and Rhaenyra, and that's it. So
I wrote that down too. I'm like, have we really seen, outside of the training yard where he's yelling from the top like Aegon, and when he's questioning Aemon, there's no interaction between these kids. And I think the way his interaction with his kids mirrors the relationships that he had with their mothers, right? He loved Emma. That was his love. Rhaenyra's realm's delight. Like, you see the way he frames his relationship with Rhaenyra, and to it by extension, her children. Whereas he doesn't even mention Aegon and Helena's children. That's one. Two, there's very little interaction with those kids outside of when Aegon was a baby, and he was kind of doting around them. But like as he got older, we can kind of deduce that there wasn't much parenting there. There was probably some, hey, do this, do that, but there's not a lot of parenting there. And with Allison, I think he cares for Allison, and I think he appreciates Allison. But that's the political match that he knows was kind of, conspicuously placed in front of him. So like there's so much that goes with these relationships. I want to address something from the chat. Somebody talking about like Allison being delusional, like by basically paying the girl off. There's not much Allison can do with Aegon or Aemon. Like none of these. Like princes have more of a station than even queens, right? Because of the male line. So like, what you gonna do? Geld him? What you gonna do? Like, cut his dick off, send him to the black cells? Like, there's literally nothing she can do except yell at him and admonish him. If only she had there was a father she can come to and say, hey, like, you need to help, contribute to showing him how to be a man. But she didn't have that. And to top this off, she had these kids. She started having kids when she was, what, 16, 15, 16, 17? Like, she's a young girl, whereas Rhaenyra had the privilege of living a little bit more life and seeing more things before she had started having kids, basically in her early 20s.
Did.
Yeah, she saw more things. Like, so that's a privilege that she has, and that shows in the way, like, she's seen more things. So I think she knows better how to protect her children, and how to raise them up. With Allison, number one, had kids young, remarkably anxious person. Like, we saw that from the biting of the nails, and just like her whole demeanor is like there's a lot of anxiety there. I would have just said too, but she has a lot of anxiety, and that anxiety plays out in the way that she lashes out at her children. Well, specifically Aemon and Aegon when they fuck up, is because her anxiety, always keeps her on edge about how bad things can be, and she can actively see how they are making things progressively, significantly worse, right?
I can get behind that, especially when we're talking anxiety, because when you're pushed over the limit, man, you're gonna snap. I get it. That's me from time to time, so I can get behind that.
So, another scene I really want to highlight. It's a quick scene, but I just want to get everybody's thoughts on it. Was we see Talia, who is like she's like the queen of the servers or whatever. She has access
Queen
to
of
all
the servers.
Yeah, she's the she's in charge of everybody or whatever. She's she tends to the kids. She knows all their secrets, it seems, and she meets up with Mysaria, which I'm Mysaria. We get to hear her pronunciation, her
terrible accent.
Terrible accent. I mean, her accent is by far the worst thing on this show.
So weird.
But so, what do we think that's leading to? Like, why is Mysaria is previously aligned with Daemon, but I don't think they ended on the best terms. So,
don't count your chickens before they hatch.
Okay.
With the reintroduction of the White Rat, she has a role to play in the future as well.
Okay, who's the White Rat?
Mysaria, or Lady Misery, was
that mentioned in the show?
Uh-huh.
The white, like that term?
Yes.
Wow.
When Daemon took Rhaenyra to Flea Bottom, to the whorehouses and what have you, and that little boy came to inform the Otto Hightower, he said a message from the White Rat, and that was referring to Mysaria, aka Lady Misery.
Okay, I'd forgotten about that nickname. Not the best nickname.
Well, at least she has a different name compared to everyone else.
That's true. She definitely has a different accent also.
Yeah, not the best.
Frank, what do you think about Mysaria and the role that she'll potentially play?
I vaguely remember her past this point in the books. It looks like she's setting up a power play here. I mean, one thing we've learned about Game of Thrones and the Seven Kingdoms is that when you have money, you're influential. When you know shit, when you have secrets, you're even more influential. You can start wars and end wars with knowledge. We saw that with the spider, Littlefinger, and the spider, and all these different obscure characters in the original show. And I think Mysaria is, and she made it very known in the beginning. I think it was episode 3 that she doesn't want to be a whore. Like, she wants influence. She wants to make her mark. She, and she was very, very overt with her self-interest. And I think now we start to see that in fruition. I mean, she unveiled one of the biggest secrets in this series of Rhaenyra running out, and getting some. Now they thought it was Daemon, but it was Kristen, but she unveiled one of the biggest secrets. So that shows you the type of power and influence secrets have and rumors have, and how she's positioning herself in this show. I think that this won't be the end. This won't be the last time we see her, and I think she's gonna make a truly big mark come the final war.
Lady Misery gains a ton of influence and a ton of power. As you can see, we've seen it from the beginning, from episode 1 all the way to now. Like, you see the influence she has. Look at the house she has. Like, this is all her. She doesn't work. She does not work for anybody. She is a boss, and she's going to take that power and that influence and continue to grow, continue to be even more influential than she is. As far as her, talking about the show is setting up, if this season ends the way I think it's going to end, there's no way y'all can be Team Black after this. There's no way, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know.
The hold that blonde white women have on you. Jeez. But
you must be clear on this. I am a fan of chaos, and the guy behind me.
Chaos is a ladder.
I knew you were going to say that.
And the guy behind me in this screenshot is why I want more chaos. So I'm going to be Team Black. Now they start raping niggas and shit, and I'm out. But this is, I want more chaos. So I'm Team Black until some fucked up shit happens.
Frank chooses violence.
Maybe not rape, but about as bad. But we'll see. We shall see. 2 episodes left.
You said it before, Tristan, that the show was clearly positioning two different allegiances, right? And I understand completely what you're talking about, how if the show ends the way that you think it's going to end, because I'm pretty sure you and I are thinking along the same lines. I see your point of view. I completely see your point of view as to why people could still be Team Black. But listen, I'm still flabbergasted as hell as how you're still Team Green, even up to this point. You still know what happens in the end.
I do know what happens in the end, which makes me even more Team Green. If I want to bet on anybody. I'm not really Team Green. I'm definitely not Team Black. I empathize with Allison, right? I empathize with her character. She's my favorite character because I see how, on one hand, a lot of this has been, positions she's been put in by her father, by her husband, by, society, what so on and so forth. And on the other hand, she's fighting with like this grasping for power, like that she never knew that she would ever have to learn how to do. And she's learning how to grasp for power. And I could empathize. I grew up mostly a passive child. You know what I'm saying? I was a laid back child. So I didn't really learn how to be assertive and grab the things that I wanted until I got older, and like circumstances put me there. So I definitely empathize with Allison. She's my favorite character. So I'm definitely Team her. The rest of everybody else on the Greens is not worth much of shit. But I'm also cynical enough, and I'm happily cynical enough to know that I don't understand this Team Black shit either. But so, and I was gonna address this before we close, but like the reason why Allison judges Rhaenyra is not because it's partly because she's jealous of Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra has fucking choices. Right. She's always had choices. Yes, she exists under the same patriarchy, and yes, she has to do some shit that she doesn't want to do. Hello, Laner. But throughout the majority of her life, more so than Allison and any other woman, honestly, she's had choices. She's had the choice to go out and fuck up, and the choice to break tradition, the choice to do these things, right? And she's, for the most part, made the wrong fucking decisions. Like, yeah, I'm all for her being able to have sex and love whoever she wants. I'm for that. I'm in 2022. She's not, but also by having kids with Harwin Strong, it's not. Yeah, she made that choice, and she got to have kids with somebody she loved, and you can see how well developed these fucking kids are, which is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, she puts those kids in mortal fucking danger, and she knew she was putting them in mortal danger, like beheaded danger, like whole line gone, like type of danger. And she did that anyway, and she's lying in people's faces and trying to make them feel stupid, like for knowing the truth. Like that, I can't be Team Black because I'm anti you talking to me like I'm stupid, and she's talking to y'all like y'all are stupid. All right, and everybody else like they are stupid, and I can't ride.
Whatever it takes, okay? Whatever it takes.
I'm Team Allison because I think she's just the least, so far at least. But yeah, I'm Team Allison, and I'm gonna stay Team Allison.
Okay, then correct me saying that you're Team Green, because I'm pretty sure you said at one point you were Team Green. We can go back and check the pods in future.
But that was the question.
Definitely Team Green at the beginning.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm Team House of the Dragon because I've watched all the episodes of Rings of Power. And, oh my God, it's not on the same level. So that wraps it up for this episode. Now let's look ahead to next episode, which is episode 9 is the Green Council. So first off, did everybody watch the preview for next week?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I got it. Okay. So here we go. Really?
God damn it, Frank. I'm just saying.
Well, you know what? It's one of those ones where, I mean, obviously it opens with Viserys is dead. I don't know if they're planning. I don't think they're planning a funeral. I assume there will be some kind of a service or something that we see.
Oh my God. If they do what they did in the book, Viserys is done so dirty in the book.
Well, the reason why I say that is because obviously this is only like a 40, 50 second like little clip that I'm trying to break down. And I watched it multiple times and tried to take as many notes as I could. But you can see the Hightowers are trying to have a rush ceremony, which I assume is to name Aegon the king. Is that kind of what we're all thinking?
I would say you're
Okay.
down the right path.
Okay. We see Allison, and she says she's talking about Viserys, and I think she's talking to Otto. She says he told me he wished for Aegon to be king. I feel like she's telling Otto that, or
the Green Council.
Yeah, she might be telling. Yeah, because it seems like that's also happening. There's a hooded person in a crowd of people. I'm not really sure who that. Well, he's hooded.
I'm just assuming that anytime there's a hooded figure in the crowd, it's Daemon. Although it could be Aemon. It could be Aemon.
I wonder if he hangs that up, like his little murder cloak. I wonder if he has that, like, he sends up to the cleaners or some shit. Like, I don't know.
He wants the blood of his enemies on his cloak.
Right. Air dries it. Just it'll be okay. Just a little sun time, air. We're all good.
Takes out all the stains. It's fine.
Right. We get back-to-back quotes from Otto. He says the door remains shut until we finish our business. And then he says, then he's talking to someone who obviously we're not supposed to see who it is, but he tells the person, no one can know who you are or what you seek. I don't really know who he's talking to. I don't really even have a guess. So I assume it's a character that we don't know, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Do y'all have any theories who that might be?
I think I know exactly who it is. It would be, I don't know. I don't know if it would happen next episode. I thought it would be something that happened. Oh, no, it'd have to happen. No.
Well,
It would either happen in next episode or the finale. But if who I think he's talking to when he says that is who it is, then again, it's just that's going to be a big. Oh, Sir Eric.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
With an A or with an E?
That is the question, isn't it?
Fuck if I know, man. Fuck if I know.
Listen,
What?
at that point in the book, I was actually listening to the audiobook and the narrator just saying Eric and Eric. I'm like, but who? Which
Yeah.
one?
I mean, the dude with the A, he's so shortchanged because he clearly should be an Aegon. Like, to fact that,
Oh,
you know,
man.
like, come on, man. I mean, to me, also, if you're gonna have a bunch of Aegons, let's get some nicknames in here. Let's mix it up. Like,
We got
An
egg.
egg.
There's
Egg.
an egg.
There's an egg,
okay,
yeah. That's Aemon's brother. Not to be confused with Aemond with a D, but Aemon.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, there are, all of them have you have Aegon the Conqueror, obviously. You have Aegon
Right.
the Uncrowned, Aegon the Unworthy, Aegon
The
Unlucky, Jon Snow. You have well, spoiler alert, Aegon the Elder, Aegon the Younger. Like, they all have
Mhm.
it's just hard to remember those, but yeah, they all have a nickname.
Right.
Yep.
And history doesn't remember names, apparently. I don't, but history does. So the
Doesn't
next
remember
part,
blood.
right. So the next part of the trailer for next week, and this part is very interesting because I don't know. I think it's Rhaenys, but it could be Rhaenyra. One of them appears to be locked in a room. Now, I don't. To me, it looks like it would be Rhaenys, but it makes more sense for it to be Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra tells Allison at the end of this episode that basically she's got to drop the kids off and then she's going to fly back on Dragonback. She'll come back. So it would make sense that maybe it's Alice that it's Rhaenyra who's locked in a room.
I
Well,
think it's
well,
neither.
rem-
You
well,
think it's
remember
neither?
Rhaenyra. Well,
Yeah.
remember Rhaenyra is also pregnant, so
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
So that
events.
could be.
You know, if let's say they're going to go with what happens in the book, the events of Viserys' death also weighs heavily on Rhaenyra, and
Right.
I don't know if you could say it causes her to go into premature labor, that kind of thing, but there's definite moves in the sense of
Yeah.
keeping her away from King's Landing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But if anybody's locked, no, that's a season finale thing. And I can't be sure, but I think that somebody being locked in a room would be a season finale thing. But we'll see.
Okay. I just wonder because like they have done a good job with this show. If they show us something on the next episode, it's always in the next episode. There usually isn't something that's like 2-3 episodes away.
They've done that though. After the first few episodes, they showed some stuff that was later in the season.
Okay.
There's some stuff that we're just seeing, like some voiceovers. They say they put into those first few trailers. But I agree with you. I think everything that we saw in the trailer is for next week.
Right. Then we see Talia she has a child with her. That's pretty interesting. It's a kid with blonde or silver hair.
Oh
Then,
my god, man.
yeah. And then Allison looks like she's like very emotional and she asks the question, what if Rhaenyra? I guess this is a Green Council meeting that we're seeing. Then we have Larys, who wasn't in this episode. He's returning in episode 9. He says, I've found out something you should know. I think he's talking to Allison, right?
I believe so.
Then they show us we get a shot of that same silvered haired child. Appears to be like in a dungeon or somewhere in the dark, being like held captive. That's very interesting. Because I wasn't sure, like, is that a bastard of Aegon? Is that one of Rhaenyra's children because she's got so many? And maybe she forgot one, because there's just like 6 or 7 of them. That part.
I'll from my end, I'm not saying anything else about what's happening. Like,
Okay.
we are. I've been kind of teasing, like, hey, the shits are about to shit. We are here at the shit. We are officially, once we open this door, we are at the shits. We're here. Like, it's time to dance now. So yeah, I don't want to say anything that could spoil it because these last 2 episodes. So let me rewind. I think I said this. I originally did not want a Dance with the Dragons show, right? Not because I didn't think it would be compelling. Everything about the story is compelling for the most part, at least. is because it's all gas, no brakes. It is complete. It is complete. Like there's just so much shit happening, and it's such a tragic story, right? Forget about what we think about the characters. Just in general, we didn't know the characters at all. It'd still be a tragic story.
Right.
And it's a lot of action. Like it's gonna do a lot of numbers viewership wise, but I think there's gonna be some triggering things for a lot of people, myself included. They're gonna be hard to watch, right? It's gonna be beautiful to talk about, but it's gonna be hard to watch in the moment. But I will say this show was so brilliant that it has primed me and made me ready to watch those things that I know are gonna happen that I don't want to see happen. But yeah, excellent show, man.
So my guess is that blonde-haired child that we see is probably not going to make it past the episode. I think there's something like that will happen. Something dastardly is like that's where they're pointed.
Something bad happens that people have to grapple with. Something really bad happens that a lot of people have to grapple with, and that's all I got for you.
Yeah, and then we get a quote from Lord Beesbury, right? He's the I guess he's like the accounting guy on the council.
Master of Coin.
Yeah, Master of Coin. And he says, "This is seizure. It is treason at the least." And then you see Sir Criston draws his sword. And
what I will say about Sir Criston from here on out is that he's going to be coming in hot.
Yeah.
Like from here on out. It's like Tristan just said, it's all gas, no brakes.
And what I'll say about Beesbury really quickly is that he's the by the book type person. That's how he's characterized. He's strictly like, this is what's said, this is what's written, this is what it is. And that comes in conflict a little bit.
The very last,
a little more than a little bit, but yeah. A little bit more. Un poco.
The last thing we see is we see a shot of the crown as Rhaenys is saying, "Have you never imagined yourself on the Iron Throne?" Now, I remember this line being in one of the original trailers for this show, and I think she was talking to Allison.
I don't think so.
No. So was it Rhaenyra? Well, it was one of the two, I think, right?
First of all, it's going to be a while before Rhaenyra and Allison, face to face. But I think she's talking to Daemon.
Really? Okay.
If I just had to guess, that's not something it's in the book. Again, Fire and Blood is based on like secondhand information for the most part. It's like two maesters and a mushroom. You know what I'm saying? So we don't get a lot of like private conversations. That stuff doesn't show up in the book. Very little of private conversation shows up in the book at all. So
and it's possible it could be a show creation as well, just to kind of add the drama and that kind of thing. Obviously, the show has taken the liberties to do that, and it has paid off. It's definitely paid off in the end. I don't recall necessarily Rhaenys saying that to anyone in particular, just like what Tristan was saying, because the book doesn't really have a lot of dialogue like that. It's more of just facts and descriptions of battles, wars, and things of that nature.
I think it's Allison, because look at the comment we got from Own Kind of Beauty, LDJ. The crown is on a green pillow. So I think she's talking to Allison. Like I said, it was one of the first trailers for this show. Whenever they showed the first thing, I do remember that voiceover, and I thought they showed her talking to Allison. So, because at that point I didn't know who Allison, I didn't know who Rhaenys, I know any of these people, who any of them were. So,
well, if Rhaenyra's coming back to King's Landing, obviously for Viserys' funeral,
right?
And then she leaves and goes back to and then she, then leaves to go back to Dragonstone. It's very possible that she has that conversation with Allison before she goes back to Dragonstone. She definitely goes back to Dragonstone. We know that. Yeah. So possibly.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Any other thoughts on next week's episode or anything? Anything you want to see? I know this is probably not a great question for y'all because y'all kind of know what's going to happen or have an idea, but any final thoughts?
I think historically, I was going to say historically, usually episodes 8 and 9 are are pretty big episodes, or pretty big turning points in any, well, we've
Game
only
of
had 2 Game
Thrones,
of
yeah.
Thrones, but just in the Game of Thrones season of the Red Wedding, Hard Home, Battle of the Bastards, you know, those were all huge episodes for that
Ned Stark.
respected
Ned Stark.
Ned
yeah.
Stark.
Yeah,
Ned
him
Stark,
dying.
exactly. So I think, what can we expect for episode 9, the penultimate, is going to be something that is going to be just as ever epic and life-changing in the course of this story, and I am just here for it. I can't believe we're approaching week 9 of this show, and it's going to be sad when we come to the finale and have to break down that finale, because then it's going to be another 2 years before we probably get a new season, which is horrible. Damn it.
I'll say that if you're watching this, watchers, if you're watching this and if what Brittany said sounded like exaggeration to you, let me be the first to tell you it is not. I think what we're going to see next Sunday is going to be like one of those things we talk about. Like, I mean, I'm just in my mind, like I start running through the rest of the like penultimate episodes, like, you know, Blackwater, fucking the Battle on the Wall. Like these things are things where I sit up. Like there was some episodes my wife was watching. I was like, okay, I'll sit down. I'll watch a Warriors game. I'll watch something on YouTube while the episode is on. When the Battle on the Wall came on, I stood the fuck up. And this is what I think this is what we're gonna get on Sunday. We're gonna get something defining, I would say, a defining episode.
Well,
yikes, man. Fucking yikes.
Cannot wait
Woo!
for that.
Brittany,
Brittany,
I love this shit.
Yeah, we all do. And
I know. My body is ready.
You're ready. You're all ready. Yeah. Yeah. How can people find us on social media?
Well, first of all, we want to thank everyone who's joined us for our live stream today. Currently have 15 viewers. Hey, that's what's up.
Yeah,
we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate everyone who's followed us in the chat as well. Own Kind of Beauty, LDJ, Ask Big Cap. We also have had messages from Andrew, our brother in the north, and a couple of other people that I may have missed. Trisha from the Texas Potterhead. And yeah, appreciate you all being here. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. We're on the road to 200 subscribers, so help make that happen. Also, don't forget to like this video. Helps out with the algorithm and helps out with other people who want to know more about House of the Dragon. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the handle @WatchersBasement. You can also help spread the word about us by using #WatchersBasement. Tag us in articles, memes. We love memes. Oh my God. Twitter is like just lit with all the memes right now. It's fantastic. And yeah, so just use #WatchersBasement. And for your audio podcast needs, we are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, thanks to Anchor.fm. Give us a 5-star rating. We'd also really appreciate that there as well. And back to you, Justin.
Thank you, Brittany. Appreciate it. And so for Brittany, for Tristan, and for Frank, who had to leave us a little bit earlier, and for George, who was going to be on the show but had to drop out the last second, hopefully he'll be back next week to talk about episode 9. This is Justin saying we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Storms broke and the dragons danced.